everyone, and welcome to another episode of Time Out with Derek and Joe. For Joe Azalina, I am Derek and Thank you, as always, for taking time out of your day to spend some time with us. Now, Joe, I had a video come out on over this weekend talking about my reflections on the live college football playoff. Um, and the four teams that inevitably were allowed in. Uh, I thought we would start there. What are your just overall impressions of the top four that were brought into the college football playoff? Again, that was number one, Alabama. Number two was Clemson. Number three was Ohio State. And number four, Notre Dame.
Well, Derek, yeah, and glad to be back again on this Monday afternoon. I want to say that you did a fantastic job, and I'm not just being biased about that. I think there's a lot of views I saw, and I was sorry I couldn't make it as I was busy and didn't have my laptop for the audience out there. And Derek, you covered it very well to say that I wasn't able to be there a few times, so I appreciate that.
Yes,
But
no
I'm here
problem.
now, and I'm ready to go on future shows, and this is gonna be a good one today. But yeah, listen, Alabama number one. That's not even an argument. Number two, Clemson looked ridiculously good against my Fighting Irish, who I accepted the fact that we weren't there on Saturday night. We just weren't able to do anything. We weren't able to move the ball really at all, at least in
Yeah.
the for most of the game. Um, Three, Ohio State. I like again. I'm really going back and forth. I know they're talented. I know they have a good team, but I really wanted to see like Cincinnati pop up. I know it probably wouldn't have happened, but just because, and you covered it again pretty well, saying Cincinnati 77th schedule. The strength of schedule.
Strength schedule, yeah.
Can they play with Georgia? We're going to soon find out in a couple, not even 2-3 weeks now from now. I thought A&M could even jump in there if they put it slid Notre Dame right behind Clemson, which I'm kind of glad they didn't. But no, Ohio State at three. It is what it is. Number four, Notre Dame. I was really, really happy, but I still think that the reward is tough to face Alabama. But yeah, that's my thoughts. 1 through 4. I mean, January 1st, we're gonna have a national title game set that night. So
Yeah, so obviously so as they talked about, they're moving the Rose Bowl from now again, I may have said these points. Some people might have seen the video on Saturday, but I'll say them again because a lot of people didn't. They are moving the Rose Bowl from California to Texas, in because California isn't going to allow anyone to be in the stadium, so they figured. I believe they said about 6,000 people are going to be allowed into the Dallas Stadium for the Rose Bowl game, and that's why they said they're there as opposed to like the Sugar Bowl that the Ohio State and Clemson is in, because they're going to be there's going to be more fans, and probably going to be a majority of Alabama fans. I assume are going to get the most tickets, but um, so yeah, again, Alabama, that's pretty well set. We don't really need to talk about that. What do you? So we'll dive a little more into Ohio State. A lot of people were their complaints were that they didn't play enough games. They were only 6-0 this year. The Big Ten actually changed their. You need to play 6 games normally in order to get into the Big Ten championship game. They moved it down to 5. They didn't really play that strong. Penn State was not good. They didn't play a strong schedule. They beat Indiana in a close game when Penix was still playing. And then obviously they beat Northwestern in the Big Ten championship game, who again does not have the athletes that Ohio State did. So the fact that it was a little close might not bode well for Ohio State. Do you think Ohio State belongs? What were your thoughts on them not playing as many games? Do you think that's really relevant?
Well, I think the coronavirus again was going to make an impact in some way here, and it definitely did. But my whole thing is that the Big Ten hasn't been strong again. We see Michigan's down, Michigan State's down, really. Uh, Indiana that was a close win for Ohio State against
Hmm.
Indiana. Uh, we'll talk about maybe Northwestern in a little bit, but that was only a 12-point win, and they didn't even look good in the first half. And what we're going to see, I think, come New Year's night at 9 o'clock, how good is Justin Fields? How good is he as a quarterback? Because he's going
He
to have to
hasn't
be
been that good in
real.
the big games. They kind of
That's the
mentioned that.
thing. And he's going to face a defense that are absolutely studs everywhere. And we watched the Clemson Notre Dame game together, in
Hmm.
person together, I should say.
The first one,
And we
yeah.
thought the Clemson defense, we thought even missing two guys, was still really athletic. They're not going to lose their athleticism in a couple weeks. So Ohio State's going to have to do a lot more to get Fields out in space, to let him throw in the run, maybe. But to be honest with you, I know Florida didn't deserve to be there after the loss to LSU. If they won that game, though, they might have made a little bit of a point. And then because they battled Alabama to the ending of that game.
Hmm.
That was a big show by Florida. They showed up. Um, but I'll tell you right now, Ohio State will play well, but I don't think in the end they're going to have enough, and their defense is not that good. They've lost guys. Jeff Okuda, who we talked about into the draft with the Lions, I'm pretty sure. The cornerback, they're missing him. They're missing guys. They're just missing guys. But I'll tell you one guy that Clemson needs to account for is Trey Sermon, the running back. He's really good.
Yeah.
And he had a good game against Northwestern. Now I have it down here. He carried the ball 29 times for 331 yards and 2 touchdowns. And he's played a big game because he's an
Yeah.
Oklahoma transfer. So, no, to answer your question, though, if I haven't already, I think Ohio State is a really good football team, but I don't think they're on Clemson's level.
But you think they deserve to be in? To be
Well, the
clear?
Big Ten really assisted them, right? They really helped them out,
Yeah.
right? Because they changed that
If they
rule.
didn't win a Big Ten championship, they might not have put them in.
Because I think Oklahoma actually looks a little more deserving now as they knocked off Iowa State.
Yeah.
And freshman quarterback Spencer Rattler has done a really good job with quarterbacking that team and being a leader. Watch out for the Sooners and watch out Florida, because I have Oklahoma beating them. Yeah. So
Yeah, so obviously the defensive players for Clemson and the defensive players for Northwestern are going to be a little bit different of a talent level. So maybe we probably delve into the individual game a little bit later. Um, uh, Clemson number 2, that was pretty straightforward. If we want to dive into the game a little bit over this past weekend, obviously 34-10, they took down Notre Dame, and Notre Dame scored a touchdown in the last few minutes of the game. Trevor Lawrence looked very good. Travis Etienne looked very good. What do you think? Was it strictly Lawrence that you think was the big tide that turned it from a close, high scoring Notre Dame win over to kind of a blowout for Clemson? Granted, it was a neutral field as opposed to at Notre Dame. Do you think it was just a bunch of factors, or some keys individually?
that's a tough question. I think Notre Dame hurt themselves on that 3rd-and-goal play where they decided it would be a good idea to try to run the ball. And I think that's a perfect play for a quarterback, like a play action pass to a tight end, as we have 3 of them, Notre Dame does, or a receiver on the outside. Listen, Trevor Lawrence was unbelievable. He was 25 of 36. He threw for 322 yards. He found ETN when he had to on a dump off pass. He would throw the ball to Amari Rogers, one of their key receivers, 121 yards, a touchdown. Um, it just seemed to me that Notre Dame was outmatched. That they just, you know, there's one thing to lose a football game, but there's another thing when you get 3 points and you don't score it into the fourth quarter. I
Yeah.
mean, Clemson's defense was suffocating. James Skowski played a big game. Mike Jones, who they highlighted a lot, played a really good game. It just seemed to me that there was a lot of orange and white on the field, like they were just everywhere. And listen, they won a national title a couple years ago. They're
Yeah.
probably, they have a shot to do it again. And people are forgetting. I know everybody wants to talk about Trevor Lawrence, but what about some of these coaches? What about Venables, Brett Venables, the defensive coordinator? The offensive coordinator, who I can't remember his name, but Derek, they turned out Deshaun Watson. So this is a program now. This is actually not just a football team in a couple years. This is a program. Clemson is an absolute beast right now, and they're not going away.
Yeah, true. And we may be talking about the same point, but there was a point very early, right after the end of the first quarter, that I said, you know what, that is a very clear that it's going to now go in Clemson's direction. I believe it was, I want to say it was 14 or 7-3, something like that at the time. Notre Dame was driving. They might have been at Clemson's like 25, something like that, and they turned the ball over on downs, and Book missed his receiver, and I thought that was kind of a key turning point. They ended up driving right down the field and scoring a touchdown. And I kind of said it the other day. I think this is kind of an anomaly game. I don't that Notre Dame is not that bad. It just I think everything kind of went Clemson's way. But you look at a team like North Carolina and we've talked about it plenty of times. The committee seems to love North Carolina, and North Carolina is a very good team. Going to North Carolina is not a fluke. Of course, beating Clemson, and then I mean you lose to Clemson, but you beat them the first time. And if we want to dive into the talk of 4 versus 5, Texas A&M missing out, a lot have said that might be the main reason. Notre Dame had those 2 big wins. Granted, they lost to Clemson, doesn't matter. They beat Clemson. They went to North Carolina. All Texas A&M has is that win against Florida at home, and then the blowout loss to Alabama. The SEC is good, but there aren't, I don't believe, any top 25 teams that they ended up beating otherwise. And then Florida losing that game to LSU, that might have hurt them. But I guess we kind of are left to wonder how close Texas A&M was ultimately to getting the number 4 spot over Notre Dame.
No, that's a good point. And Notre Dame. Here's the other thing I think is really funny, and I don't know that I think they covered it on the game, Kirk Herbstreit and Chris Fowler, but people want to say, "Oh, Clemson lost players," right? Notre Dame was without wide receiver Braden Lenzy, who my brother always talks about. He's a track star, so that would have been a guy to maybe get out in the field. And freshman Lawrence Keys didn't see the field. Now that was a Notre Dame decision. Lenzy was hurt, but then they're missing their center. So Notre Dame had some key injuries. I'm not going to sit there and make that excuse because Clemson literally just played an awesome game. But I just want to throw that out there. Everybody wants to make the thing about, oh, Lawrence, Notre Dame didn't beat Trevor Lawrence. But Notre Dame did beat Clemson that day. They had other players. They had very good players. So I agree. I totally agree with you. And that's not my Notre Dame bias. I would say that was anybody. You got to play with what's on the field. I felt bad for Lawrence. I have nothing against Trevor Lawrence. I think he's a class act. But here's the thing. I now wonder if it's written in the stars, as they say, How funny would it be if Notre Dame and Clemson match up for the national championship this year?
Hmm?
Because it would be the rubber match. Not that again, I'm being hopeful, and I have already told myself like Alabama's got plenty of weapons, and I'm scared already. But I I'm just saying like that would be kind of poetic justice. Let's go. Let's do it. I mean, 2020, it doesn't get crazier than this. As far as the A&M thing, Kellen Mond's a good quarterback. They're a good team. I haven't watched them much, to be totally honest. When we get to the Bulls, Derek, in a little bit, I will tell you they have a really interesting matchup, though. And I know you probably have
Hmm.
seen it. But what an interesting matchup. We're going to get an ACC SEC matchup, just for a little spoiler there. But we talked about the team, so I just thought I'd throw it out there. But no, A&M, they deserve to be at 4. Do I think they got it wrong? No. I think Notre Dame's body of work was just better.
And again, I did talk on Saturday about how I thought Notre Dame deserved it. I was worried they were going to give it to Texas A&M because usually, and especially with the SEC being that they love SEC, they they they
Oh, yeah.
obviously think the strength of schedule is the strongest. I think it was the fact that they lost to Alabama, they beat Florida, Georgia, they didn't play, Texas A&M. The rest was pretty mediocre, the rest of the league, and I think that's what it was this year. And then I know my dad put up a good point while I was talking about how uh, you're going to get the fans, you're going to get the views from Notre Dame. Are people going to watch a Texas A&M and Alabama game? Yes, but not as much as would watch a Notre Dame and Alabama game. Um, I'm not saying that there was any conspiracies out there that that that's why they put Notre Dame in the Final Four. I wouldn't agree with that, but um,
Texas
Texas
recruits too.
A&M, they have a good, they had a very good squad this year, but I didn't think that they belonged in. And hey, we will see. Now Notre Dame went and beat North Carolina at a at North Carolina, so Texas A&M has their chance. If they don't beat North Carolina, then we'll definitely know. Okay, well, probably the fact that Notre Dame went in was correct. One other thing about the rankings I wanted to throw out at you. Obviously, we saw 5 was Texas A&M, 6 was Oklahoma. Where was the undefeated Cincinnati Bearcats? Nowhere to be seen. Um, we saw their very lack of strength of schedule. I assume that's why they didn't get in, even though they are undefeated, and they even put in a 2-loss Oklahoma team above them at number 6. Do you think we'll ever see a team like Cincinnati? I mean, if there were a year, it was probably going to be a year like this, without moving up to an 8-team college football playoff.
Listen, I think the answer to that's no. It's a shame the defense was so good for them. Luke Fickle, the head coach, I know I've heard him talk a bunch of times. He's an Ohio guy, so this is cool for him. He might get another job in the next couple of years. He's done a really good job with the program. Um, I know that I reference him a lot, but I just love listening to him because I think he's an honest guy, and he's from Ohio, and that's Kirk Herbstreit. He keeps talking about right, and he went to Ohio State to play quarterback. He's never biased to them. He's got kids at Clemson. They both play in the football team. He's not biased to them. He just does his job, and he's very good at it. And he's one of my favorite analysts of all time. Well, anyway, Kirk Herbstreit kept saying Cincinnati is one of those teams that's like a UCF of a couple years ago, where they were almost undefeated, right? And then all of a sudden, man, the quarterback shoots off his mouth and he's like, oh, we want Notre Dame. Really? Like, you're not playing anybody close to Notre Dame. So don't sit there and say you want Notre Dame. That's a great thing for bulletin board material, but play who you play. Cincinnati, maybe they schedule a couple out of conference games or go up a little higher. But man, 77, Derek, we both know that's
Yeah,
not getting it done.
and I kind of chuckled when I saw they're 3-0 in against top 25 teams. Okay, well, one was Army, they finished outside the top 25. One was SMU, they finished outside the top 25. They one was Tulsa, who I think finished like at number 25 or something like that.
Right.
Even though Cincinnati beat them, they didn't really drop down. Um, yeah, and what are you gonna do? I mean, because and I know they were all complaining about like Ohio State because they only played 6 games with the Big Ten championship game, and they went out and played 10, 11 games undefeated. Well, I believe it was 9 or 10, maybe, because they had a game with Tulsa canceled. I know, but um, uh, e- even with the team only playing 6 games and not even looking great in those 6 games, and Cincinnati, maybe you gotta be more dominant. I don't know, but yeah, they didn't look dominant enough, I don't think, and they definitely weren't a fan. The committee of Cincinnati, it didn't seem like, and that's probably a reason why they dropped down. But so again, the final rankings, number 1 Alabama, number 2 Clemson, number 3 Ohio State, number 4 Notre Dame, number 5 Texas A&M, 6 Oklahoma, and then 7 was actually Cincinnati. Or actually, I believe it might have been Indiana, might have even stuck in there as well. But um, so just looking at some of the games, we kind of touched on a bunch of them this weekend. Um, Obviously, the Notre Dame and Clemson game was the ACC championship game. There was Ohio State and Northwestern. We touched on that a little bit. What were your thoughts on the Alabama and Florida game? I know you touched on how you um, really, if Florida would have won that game, may have had a legitimate shot to get into the college football playoff. Very close game, 52-46. Najee Harris, 5 touchdowns in that game, as well as 5 touchdowns total for Mac Jones. Um, we kind of said it a while ago. Just not quite enough defense for Florida, but a very talented team.
Yeah, and the one thing about Alabama is that they do it in so many ways. You talked about Najee Harris. I have him down for 31 carries. So if Mac Jones threw the ball,
That'll do it.
well, he threw the ball 43 times. Najee Harris had almost as many carries as he threw the ball. So that's how much they give the ball to Najee Harris. South Bend better wake up and not the echoes better wake up and watch for Najee Harris. So, but Devontae Smith might be the most interesting player that Alabama has. He is a very good receiver. He came back to school when Jerry Judy went out and Henry Ruggs, and he is my prediction to win the Heisman Trophy this year. Because if you take him
Mm.
out of the Alabama lineup, I don't know if they're undefeated. I don't know if they're going to the SEC title game. I don't know if they're in the Rose Bowl right now. You take Trevor Lawrence out of Clemson, we saw they almost beat Notre Dame on the road with the freshman quarterback. So that's my thing. I think Devontae Smith might be able to win the Heisman. Florida, Kyle Trask will probably be in New York, 26 of 40, 408 yards. And a good buddy of mine on Facebook put, well, maybe Notre Dame can throw the ball because that's a lot of yards. So if Ian Book can find
Hmm.
receivers, that could be interesting to see to stay in the game. But going back to Florida, Kadarius Tony's a guy you hear a lot about. 8 receptions, 153, a touchdown, and Trevine Grimes 4 receptions, 78 yards. Florida just didn't have enough, like we both said. And I'll go back to what I said time and time again as we cover college football. The national title is going to run through Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
Absolutely. Um, Now it really seems to be more that it's the offense this year for Alabama that's the one that's guiding them. Obviously, we talked about Florida does not have the best defense, but a 52 against A&M, 63 against Ole Miss, 441 against Georgia, who is in the top 10. Um, I mean, at Auburn, they put up 42. The least amount of points they scored this year was 38. So, you're gonna have to win a shootout with them, which is kind of Alabama like. But well, that'll probably finish up the games that we talked about this weekend. Were there any other ones that stood out, or we okay moving on?
No, just basically that Oklahoma win. That was a nice win for
Mm,
the Oklahoma Sooners and Lincoln Riley, and I think Spencer Rattler is going to be a really good quarterback going forward, and they have some talent there. So we'll see what the Sooners can do if their defense gets shored up in the next couple years, and we'll see what the Oklahoma has to offer over the next couple seasons.
yeah, I believe that was their seventh straight Big 12 championship, which is kind of shocking. I guess it's been that long since a team like Texas has taken over. And we thought it was going to be this year. If I recall, in one of our earlier episodes, I said, well, if there were a year, this is the year, right? Because Texas has a seasoned, I believe that Erlinger, is that his name,
Oh,
the
Ellinger,
quarterback.
yeah, Sam Ellinger.
Yeah, and a seasoned quarterback, and this was a young quarterback for Oklahoma, so maybe this was the year. Well, it wasn't. So well, so we're starting up bowl season, and it actually started up yesterday with a trouncing by Appalachian State over North Texas in the Myrtle Beach Bowl, which I'm sure a lot of people wanted to check into. But uh, so the thing that I've noticed is there are a lot of teams that are under 500, including a 2-8 South Carolina team. I assume it's because a lot of the teams that are over 500 don't want their kids going and playing in these games. Have you heard anything about that? Or
Well, I know the latest is Tennessee dropped out, so that was interesting.
yes,
Uh, COVID, and I
who
think
was
some of these
also
kids
under
just
500?
there you go. So perfect segue there. But no, I think some of these kids just say if they're seniors, they're like, why? Right? Like we're going to the draft,
Mm,
we're going to probably going to the combine and stuff.
yeah,
Um, I don't know. It's interesting. Some of the matchups are good though. I mean, some of these are interesting
yeah.
matchups, and we'll get to them. But
So
yeah, I don't know if I have an answer for that. I don't know if anybody knows, Derek. It's a great question.
I tried looking up like why is South Carolina in, and they just seem to say, well, that bowl is an SEC team needs to go in it. Well, okay, well there were like four
Yeah,
other teams that were better than them, so I don't really understand. They must not want to go into it, but
yeah,
and I know obviously during bowl week there's probably you go down early, a lot of practicing, a lot of partying, getting ready. Well, there's
yeah.
none of that, so you're
No,
just pretty much going down for the game, leaving. So
yeah. Kind of disappointing.
we'll run through a couple well, we'll run through the games that I see here. If there's one that looks interesting, we'll talk about it. But so actually right now as we speak, the famous Idaho Potato Bowl is going on between 6-2 Nevada and 6-5 Tulane. Nevada currently with that lead. Um, Here's one that is a little interesting. The roofclaim.com Boca Raton Bowl. For those that don't know, yeah, these names are a little wacky. A lot of them. Um, we see UCF 6-3 and number 16 BYU. Obviously BYU lost to Coastal Carolina. They went and played that extra game that they went across the country. And now they're in the Boca Raton Bowl. I'd have to say that's a little disappointing, wouldn't you say, Joe?
Yeah, after their season, what was their record ending up to be?
10-1.
Yeah, so
10-1.
like if they didn't lose that game, you're looking at maybe a Cincinnati BYU matchup. I would have said, probably not though, because of where we're going to talk about Cincinnati. They have an interesting matchup on their hands.
Yeah.
But BYU, I would have maybe even Indiana. Maybe would have saw them play Indiana. They were up there. I would have Oklahoma. They were going to match up with somebody that was going to be pretty good, but
Yeah.
really tough for them. And a really who's the quarterback? Zach Wilson, my brother, wanted to keep
Zach,
pointing
well,
out.
yeah, I was
Yeah,
gonna say, yeah, we'll see. He may be an All-American. So hopefully he can do something in the next level. But they looked very good at times, so I was a little disappointed to see him in the Boca Raton Bowl. But Um, on Wednesday, the 23rd, well, being tomorrow, um, we have the Louisiana Tech at 5-4, and Georgia Southern 7-5 in the R&L Carriers New Orleans Bowl. Then there's the Montgomery Bowl, Memphis 7-3, and Florida Atlantic 5-3. On the 24th, it's New Mexico Bowl, Houston 3-4, Hawaii 4-4. On Christmas, the Camellia Bowl 5-1, Buffalo 7-2, Marshall. On the 26th, the Union Home Mortgage Gasparilla Bowl 6-3, UAB. And I believe, as you said, Tennessee just dropped out. So now the rumor is Army is going to be taking their place
Oh wait,
in
hold
the
on.
Gasparilla Bowl. Is that
No,
not right?
South Carolina is supposed to be in there.
Oh boy.
It,
So they're
it's supposed to
moving
be
all over
South
the place.
Carolina versus UAB. So Tennessee comes up though, but it's I don't know about South Carolina. I guess are they in or they out? I don't know.
Yeah, well, I guess we'll see at some point here. In
Yeah.
the Serve Pro First Responder Bowl, Louisiana, another team who was a very good 9-1 squad, going up against Texas San Antonio, um, 5-6. Lending Tree Bowl, 5-6 Western Kentucky, 5-4 Georgia State. Here's an interesting one in the FBC Mortgage Cure Bowl. In what I'm a little disappointed in seeing, um, all the way up to 12, Coastal Carolina was, including a win against BYU. They're in the FBC Mortgage Cure Bowl against Liberty, another team that I believe they were actually even supposed to play during the regular season. Liberty very good, 9-1, just outside the top 25, I believe. But I would have loved to seen Coastal Carolina play an Indiana, or I mean, I know Cincinnati's playing Georgia, but a Georgia or a strong team from another a strong conference. So it disappointed me that they put them in that Cure Bowl with Liberty.
Yeah, the only thing is, it's not going to be an easy game, as I found out, because Liberty is really good and they score a
Yeah,
lot. So, and it's funny because me and a buddy of mine did a pick 'em, and what's interesting is you have to rate your confidence level. That game happens to be our number one confidence, meaning we're not confident, Derek.
right.
The higher number, the better your confidence. So we're not confident in that game. So yeah, Coastal Carolina, I somehow think they're going to get the win, though. I feel like they're going to come out motivated, and they're going to be like, because that's the thing. Some of these teams aren't motivated; they're upset. A&M's going to be upset. Like so, I don't know. We'll see about Coastal Carolina. I guess we're going to
But
see about.
still, wouldn't you like to see, like a Northwestern, put them against a Northwestern who was in
Yeah,
the Big Ten championship, and then have Liberty play, an Iowa or a
what about
team
Auburn
middle of the
even
road
like
from
SEC.
Auburn, something like that.
Yeah,
The
I agree
two
with you.
teams like that, I
I
don't
know.
like, but I
I
think
don't like
it's a
it
little.
either. I agree totally. Yep.
Um, the Cheez It Bowl is on the 29th, my birthday.
There it is.
Oklahoma State 7-3 is going to play Miami 8-2. Miami dropped down really quick after they got absolutely run over by North Carolina. I believe it was about 500 yards they gave up. Um, then there's the Valero Alamo Bowl. Texas is 6-3, and Colorado 4-1. Then we have now a couple of these games have been canceled, by the way, like the Pinstripe Bowl that's normally played in Yankee Stadium. Um, on the 30th, we have Wake Forest 4-4 against Wisconsin at 3-3 in the Duke's Mayo Bowl. Yep, you heard that right, Mayo. 4 o'clock, there is Iowa 6-2, Missouri 5-5, TransPerfect Music City Bowl. And then we get to a big game here where we have the Goodyear Cotton Bowl Classic, which is actually the number 6 and the number 7 teams Oklahoma and Florida. Over under, Joe, 85 points scored in that game.
I'm gonna take the under, but not by a lot.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
both
you
offenses are
want to talk
gonna
about that
score.
game, Joe?
Yeah, both offenses are gonna score. We talked about Rattler and Trask. That's gonna be the matchup.
Oh yeah.
Student versus he's a young kid, and Rattler and Trask is a senior. Um, Florida probably needs to run the ball. I don't know if they're going to throw the ball over the yard in that game. Oklahoma's going to be able to do a good job on offense. I actually have Oklahoma beating them, but it should be a good game though.
Yeah, I mean, so apparently, as good as Oklahoma's been over the past 4 seasons with Lincoln Riley, they've actually yet to win a bowl game in his tenure. They've lost each of the past three. Each of them actually in the college football playoff semifinals against a SEC opponent. So he seems to struggle every time they face the SEC. So I'd be interested to see now, Florida is the number 61 defense, which is just about middle of the road. And they don't run the ball. Oklahoma's defense actually has been getting a little stronger as the year's gone on. They played very well against Iowa State this past weekend. I'm gonna go with Oklahoma in that game. I think they outscore Florida in what probably is going to be a high scoring game, maybe around 38-31. But that will be a very interesting game to watch if you want to check out the Cotton Bowl. I believe that's usually on Fox. They put the Cotton Bowl on, and that'll be on the 30th. On the 31st, we have Tulsa at 6-2 and the 3-7 Mississippi State in the Lockheed Armed Forces Bowl. Then Ball State 6-1 against San Jose State in the Arizona Bowl. West Virginia, there they are. West Virginia 5-4 and Army in the Liberty Bowl at 9-2. Arkansas 3-7 against TCU 6-4 in the Texas Bowl. And then here's another very interesting game. We kind of hinted at it before in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl on January 1st. Number 9, Georgia, and number 8, Cincinnati. Here's your chance, Cincinnati. Show us what you're made of. Any thoughts on the Peach Bowl there, Joe?
It's going to be an interesting matchup of the Georgia quarterback in J.T. Daniels, who's a former USC guy, USC player, and he's a really good quarterback. And Cincinnati's defense stifle him in the offense for Georgia. Zamir White, does he run the ball well? Georgia had a little bit of a difficult year, but they also had injuries, COVID things, whatever you want to say. I took Georgia. I think Cincinnati plays well, though. I think they play well enough for someone to schedule them next year so they can have a shot at doing something.
And they're Cincinnati, I believe I said it. I can't quite remember the stat, but they were top 15 in defense, top 15 in rushing, and the only other team to do that was Clemson. But again, when you're playing the schedule at Cincinnati is unfortunately, but this is their chance as
Do you
I'm
think?
pulling for
Yeah.
them.
Do you think though the coach for Cincinnati has a chance at Coach of the Year? Because I wondered if Kelly's going to have a chance. Sweeney might have a chance losing Lawrence. I mean,
Mm,
Saban always is up for it, but I'm just thinking Luke Fickell might have a chance to do it because they did go undefeated. BYU didn't. I
if
mean,
you're gonna give
I
them
don't know,
something, I guess it would be nice to give
right?
them something like that, right?
I would give it
Um,
up. I wouldn't mind. I love Kelly to get it, but I wouldn't mind to see that.
Also on January 1st is the Verbo Citrus Bowl, 6-4 Auburn and 6-2 Northwestern. Nice Big Ten SEC matchup there. We're gonna skip over the two games that we're gonna dive into a little heavier on January 1st. January 2nd, the Gator Bowl, NC State 8-3, Kentucky 4-5, Old Miss and Indiana in the Outback Bowl. Pretty disappointed in that one, I must say. I would have liked to see an Indiana exactly play a team like a Coastal Carolina rather than a 4-5 Old Miss team. That's disappointing. The PlayStation Fiesta Bowl, good matchup there. Oregon, who upset USC in the Pac-12 championship game. Oregon 4-2, Iowa State 8-3. Then we mentioned the Orange Bowl, should be a very good matchup. Texas A&M 8-1, North Carolina 8-3. Who'd you have winning that one, Joe, in the Orange Bowl?
Well, I think since I've seen him play a little more North Carolina, I think the quarterback
Hmm?
Howell is really good. He gets the ball out fast. He gets the ball to those receivers timely. Mac Brown's a great coach, and A&M Dabo, um, Jimbo Fisher is going to be a little upset with things as he just got left out.
Oh
And
yeah.
I don't know, that guy doesn't always play good with a chip on his shoulder. So I feel like Carolina tells A&M they don't belong, and I think Carolina gets the win there.
Interesting. I think the opposite. I think they
Okay.
take it out on North Carolina that we belonged, which ultimately may bring up some questions depending on what happens in these next two championship game or semifinal games, I should say. So as we said, obviously we're gonna go a little more in depth into these games. We'll start with the Rose Bowl game played in Arlington, Texas at AT&T Stadium. Number one Alabama and number four Notre Dame. Obviously, I believe this is the only year they said that since they've gone to this college football playoff system that a team who started number one ended number one, and that was Alabama, 11-0. And currently, Joe, not to scare you, but the line is 19 and a half point favorites for Alabama. Why should we believe that Notre Dame is going to win this game, Joe?
Wow. I mean, I, I would
Or
love.
tell us that you think they have no chance. Whatever you want to talk about,
I
it's fine.
yeah, no, I would love to say that there's a couple things that could really help Notre Dame, but the number one thing is you got to be able to move the football. You can't keep punting. You can't have a kicker miss a field goal. You can't not do something third and goal. You gotta you gotta maximize your opportunities, right? That's what football is all about. And I think the bottom line is Alabama has a lot of athletes on offense. Notre Dame needs to possess the football. They need to take half the quarters away from Alabama's offense. Need to let them stay on the sidelines because Matt Jones, Najee Harris, Devontae Smith, God forbid if Waddle's healthy. I mean, right now I'm scared, Derek. I'm going to get more scared if that guy's healthy because he's another freak athlete. But no, listen, I'm happy they're there. I'm going to be excited because I'm sure I'll be wearing some Notre Dame stuff on New Year's Day. But I'll be realistic to say it's not going to happen. I think Alabama wins by 3 touchdowns.
Well, the here I'll throw out a couple of things to make you feel a little better. Alabama's defense, as we discussed, is surprisingly vulnerable. Um, and you especially saw it in the secondary, especially in that game against Florida this past weekend, where they gave up, I believe, it was over 400 yards. Um, Key for Notre Dame is going to be Ian Book. Can he get back to the way he was playing in those big games? If they can get top notch Book, I think they have a shot. Another key point: um, Alabama's center is not going to be playing most likely. He uh, took a serious left knee injury. That's the leader on your offensive line. So I don't know much about Notre Dame's interior defensive line, but if they could maybe upset a little bit and not allow Harris to get going and force Alabama to be a little one dimensional, that could be pretty key. but like you said, when you have, Najee Harris, Mac Jones, and Devonta Smith, all of which could potentially be Heisman Trophy finalists, it scares you a little bit,
Daunting
and
task.
it's they're gonna have to outscore them, and I don't know if Notre Dame will. Honestly, I think it's a close game. Um, you mentioned 2 touchdowns. I declare that as a close game. If it's gonna,
Yeah.
be 42-28, something like that, they might pull away at the end. But I think Notre Dame is gonna show that they belong. I really hope that they can get the run game going. Uh,
Byron Williams.
and if they can do that, it would be nice to get Williams going to take a little bit of pressure off Book. Then maybe you can see Book uh, be what he was against, say, Clemson in the first game. But should be very interesting. But so we both have Alabama winning.
The
Um,
crowd too, though. We said I think there's
yeah,
actually supposed to be more at in Texas because that's why they moved it from California, which makes sense because
correct.
Kelly was right in a way, and also not to come out with that before a big game, though. I don't think you should have done that just then, but you know the timing was off. But California, there's no Rose Bowl parade. They're not going to do a parade anyway because of COVID. So
Yeah,
here's the thing, though. I heard 9,000 possibly in Texas, and then it was only supposed to be a couple thousand in New Orleans.
I
So
think it,
that might
I thought it
change.
was yeah, I thought it was 6 and 3 is going to be in the Sugar Bowl in
Okay, six
Louisiana.
and three, so eight, whatever. Okay, because I know Alabama will get most of those fans because they're number one, but Notre Dame will get a couple thousand hopefully.
Yeah,
So we'll see. It's gonna be. I'm gonna miss that we're not gonna do a show now till after the game. But or we might no, we might do one next week. I thought. We'll see.
yeah, we
We'll talk.
will, but
But it's gonna be at least an interesting day of football that day. A lot of games on there, definitely for New Year's Day.
so that game will that so obviously the Rose Bowl is normally when it normally is. That's around 4 o'clock. That'll be on ESPN. Um, the second game will be the number 2 Clemson Tigers and the number 3 Ohio State Buckeyes in the All-State Sugar Bowl, which is going to be played in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, home of the New Orleans Saints, at 8 o'clock. As of now, Clemson is a 7.5 point favorite in that game. Again, I believe we had it last year, right? Justin Fields and Trevor Lawrence. And that obviously, I would think again, that's the storyline, right? Joe, Fields versus Lawrence. Which one can play better?
They say that history repeats itself, and I feel
Mhm.
like we're going through that road again. I mean, Lawrence isn't going to have a bad game. I don't see it. He's very good. He does so much with the football. He can run, he can throw, he's got weapons all around him. Even if they
Mhm.
take away Omari Rogers, he can throw the ball to other guys. They have a good tight end. They have another couple receivers. Whatever you want to do and whatever you want to say, Clemson has become Alabama like of the air of like the ACC. Alabama's the
Yeah,
basically they're that much feared. Ryan Day, I don't know if he's the kind of coach that can beat Dabo Sweeney. I'm not gonna lie. Dabo
good
Sweeney
point.
also fired up because he thinks Ohio State deserves to be number 12. So there's going to be a lot of storylines surrounding this one. And you know what? They might need them because the people that are upset about Notre Dame possibly are going to flip the game at whatever time, 8:30. You know, listen, wow, Ohio State would have to play a perfect game, I think. I don't think they can make one mistake. Derek, they turn over the ball. I know Northwestern's good, but they turn over the ball multiple times against a
Hmm.
pretty decent Northwestern defense. Well, come on, like you got it. Clemson is like legit. They are just absolutely cream of the crop, and Ohio State is not. Clemson by
You could
17.
you could probably say that Clemson just played their best game of the season overall. If you needed any reminder of how good Trevor Lawrence is, I think you saw it in that game. Same thing for Travis Etienne. He seems to be playing at the top of his game right now. Now, and I think this is something Kirk Herbstreit said as well. Ohio State has not played their best game. And is that due to the scheduling that they had to wait so long to get started? That might be something you can blame on the Big Ten. That's why, if I didn't say, I don't agree that Ohio State does not belong, because it's not their fault that the Big Ten waited so long to get going. They played the games that they could play and they won all their games, so they belong in. You said it. Justin Fields has not looked very good. 5 of his interceptions this season came in the game against Northwestern and the very close game against Indiana, who were the only 2 teams that they played who were legitimately good. Clemson is going to be a way different challenge. And their physicality and their ferociousness that they bring defensively and offensively is going to be something that Ohio State has not seen this year. We talked about it before. You can't compare Northwestern to Clemson. You just can't. No offense to Northwestern Wildcats, if there are any fans out there. They're not the same as Clemson.
Apples to oranges.
Yes, absolutely. And they played an epic game last year, but I really don't see it this year. I think I think they're going to struggle a little bit, Ohio State, and I think we're going to end up again with the Alabama and Clemson championship game. I really hope Fields comes to play, and I would love to see a shootout again between those two, and ultimately, but I think it's going to be Clemson. We're probably going to. Now the championship game would be, I believe it is on. Hold on,
11th.
Is it the 11th? So we'll definitely talk about the championship game before that comes out. But for now, those are our picks. We're definitely going to go with Ohio State and Clemson. Alabama and Clemson. Any final thoughts, Joe, on the college football rankings, the playoffs, the bowl games?
No, but Derek, I have an NFL question that I have to ask you.
Oh, sure.
And I know Lindsay, your girlfriend, will love this question. But we made predictions at the beginning of the year, and I know we'll get to them in probably a couple shows from now, I'd say, before playoffs start. But Derek, the Buffalo Bills are absolutely destroying things. Have you changed your mind a little bit? Josh Allen he is looking pretty good.
I was asked about it, and I said, well, obviously they won the division. We can talk about that real quick because there were some teams that have clinched already. But 11-3, and I said, they won the division. It also helps that they have 2 games against the Jets, 2 games against the Patriots. But they did play the NFC West, which is maybe top to bottom, arguably the best division in football. Honestly, I still don't know. I still don't. Are they better? I mean, Pittsburgh has been pretty bad the past few weeks, but they're a lot better than what they've been showing. Pittsburgh, are they better than Pittsburgh? Are they better than Cleveland right now? Are they better than Baltimore? Who's 9-5? Titans 10-4. Colts 10-4. Chiefs 13-1. There is a lot of talent in the AFC as compared to the NFC. It seems pretty top heavy. But do I change my mind? Obviously a little bit, because they won the division. I didn't have them winning the division, but I still think they're too one-dimensional. If you can get a team that focuses on the passing game and focuses on Allen, because Allen really seems to be do a great job running the ball.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Fleet
it,
of foot.
I don't think their running game is very good. Um, I don't think their defense is amazingly scary. I think they would struggle against a team like Pittsburgh or a defense. The Colts is a very good defense. Um, so if that answers your question,
Oh yeah,
uh,
that does. That definitely does.
um, so obviously we'll talk about it a little bit here. The Bills clinched. The Steelers have clinched already. The Chiefs have clinched in the AFC. Uh, here's something. The New York Jets clinched not the number one seed by winning at a game against the Los
That,
Angeles Rams. What do you make of that? Now
well,
they are
I
not
mean,
in the front in the driver's seat to be the number one pick. It's now the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are also
guys,
1
they're
and
not gonna lose.
13.
They're not gonna go out there and lose, but they have
No.
pride. But I mean, if I'm Trevor Lawrence, do I want to go to the Jets? I'd rather go to Jacksonville, be in the nice weather, not have to be in crappy New Jersey or New York, whatever you want to
Yeah.
say. I don't know. I
And
mean, the Jets are terrible.
well, and I guess people are talking about how well now they may have changed the state of their franchise forever, or for a long time at least, by not keeping that number one seed. Obviously, if Jacksonville wins a game, they're home to the Bears and they're at the Colts, so the chances aren't very good. But um, eh, yeah,
Maybe the
that's
Bears. Who
unfortunate for
knows?
Jets fans that it's not right now. They have the number two seed. Um, Other things to look at, I know Seattle clinched a spot. We're going to probably delve into more NFL in the next few weeks here since we're winding down into the regular season. Um, Packers have clinched, Saints have clinched. Everyone in the NFC East is still available
Eagles are done.
to win the division. Pretty crazy. The the Washington football team 6-8, Cowboys 5-9, Giants 5-9, Eagles 4-9-1. So be interested to see where that goes in the next few weeks. Go ahead, Joe.
Oh no, I just meant those 2 weeks to go. So yeah, it's like
Yeah,
now you have the Eagles going to they're playing I think it's Dallas and Washington. And I mean a lot of the sports talk radio is saying that they're done. There's no I mean good to see Jalen Hurts playing well. Um
mm,
you're probably looking at next year,
yeah,
2021. Carson Wentz could be a couple different
might be
places I
it.
think at this point, right?
Yep.
It'll be he could be traded in the draft. That could also happen. Um, but things will happen the way they're supposed to happen. And I think what a great idea though. Even though Howie Roseman is getting a lot of crap for it, Jalen Hurts was a very smart idea because this kid might end up becoming a very good quarterback. And I'm not calling him a franchise quarterback. I'm not doing that. But I'm just
All
saying that
right.
Jordan Love, like the same thing, right? Like the same exact thing. Good
You hear
quarterback.
the
So
haters when they make the pick, but when the pick
right, where are they
comes out and
now?
does well, you don't hear them complain anymore, do you?
They want Wentz gone now. A lot of Eagles fans
Yeah.
do.
Oh, that's yeah.
But yeah, hey, that's the nature of what they say sports is about. When you don't perform, you don't deserve to be
That's
there.
true.
And you can talk about injuries all you want. There's a lot of teams that deal with injuries, and it's the one thing that again, family and friends are Eagles fans, but the cold reality of it is the Eagles aren't the team. The Eagles aren't the team they used to be, and they're probably not going to be there anytime soon. So you got to deal with that reality sometimes. That's
Yeah.
sports. And Andy Reid succeeding in Kansas City to make it worse for Eagle fans.
I'm sure that makes people hurt. That's for sure.
Oh,
Well, so
crazy.
that'll do it for our show today. We hope everyone gets out to see some of these college football bowl games. Glad they made it through the season, to say at least.
Me
We
too.
know there was a lot of talk about not even doing a season this year. So the fact that these teams these leagues got this going, and we are even having a championship this year is great to see. And like we said, we probably will dive into some football in the next few weeks, some NFL with the season coming to a close. Obviously, this will be our last episode before Christmas. If you didn't notice, I was wearing my Santa gear today.
Eric is
So
dressed up.
so so Joe, wish you a Merry Christmas,
Thank you, Derek.
and
You too.
to
To your
everyone
family.
out there as well. You want to sign us off, Joe, or
Sure. We've had a nice time again doing another episode, and we're going to be coming back, of course. Like Derek said, probably next week. We'll do one next Monday. It looks like Derek's birthday's next Tuesday, so we'll have
Hmm.
to wish him happy birthday as we do the show the day before his birthday. But no, football games get me through the tough times in the winter, and it will get me through to my birthday, which is early February, and then baseball will start coming in full focus. So, but thanks for everybody listening. Like and please listen to us on all podcast platforms. And everybody really have a great holiday. Enjoy it with your family. Stay safe, and God bless, as Derek would say.
Yep. And as Joe said, so we're available lots of places. So look at us, look for us everywhere now. We're now up on YouTube. Everything is going to be Time Out with Derek and Joe in some capacity. So you just look for it, you'll find it. We're on YouTube. We're obviously streaming on all podcast platforms. We're still on Facebook. So please, if you listen anywhere else, make sure you follow us on Facebook, because you missed out on my live college football. I went live on Facebook to talk about the college football playoff as it was directly coming out. Joe and I have talked about how we may do some lives, whether it's just one of us or both of us. We're going to come out and do something sometimes, whether it be talking about baseball or football or whatnot. So please follow us on Facebook as well, on Time Out and Derek Joe page. But you can find us everywhere. Uh, but for Joe Azalina, my name is Derek Gano. I hope everyone has a wonderful Christmas. If you're able to see your family, we hope that you stay safe and enjoy your time. And if unfortunately you're away from your family, we send you the best, and hope you're staying safe as well. Again, for Joe Azalina, I'm Derek Gano. Thank you for taking time out of your day to spend some time with us. Stay safe, take care, and happy holidays to you and your family.